Alright, for this first video for 5.3, we're just going to go over 3 problems that's in the isolating trig function section. And really what we just want to do is we just want to isolate the trig function by itself, and then we'll refer to the unit circle. I have the first quadrant drawn out for the unit circle, and then we'll find the angle measures. Okay, we're going to do number 2, 4, and 5, because there's all 3 different trig functions. Number 2, this cosine of x, I kind of want to just treat that like a variable. I want to get it by itself. So really what you would just first do is you would subtract 1 from both sides. So you'd have root 2 times cosine of x equals 0 minus 1 is negative 1. Then you would divide by root 2 both sides. So you would have cosine of x equals negative 1 over root 2. Now when you rationalize that, you multiply top and bottom by root 2. You're left with negative root 2 over 2. So once you have the trig function by itself, right here you're always going to have a trig value that refers back to all the special angles in the unit circle. So then if I look at this, I ask myself, what's the reference angle? Well, obviously it's here. This is where the x value is root 2 over 2. So I'm going to put x equals, but cosine, since it's negative right here, cosine's negative in the left side of the unit circle, so it's quadrants 2 and 3. Since I know the reference angle is pi over 4, it's always easier leaving the answers in radians. I know the denominator is going to be 4. So in the second quadrant, it's 3 pi over 4. In the fourth quadrant, it's 7 pi over 4. And those are your 2 answers. Okay, if we go to number 4, now we have tangent. Not only do we have tangent, but we also have it's squared. Now that's the only trig function. So this tangent squared, I want to get this by itself. Now kind of skip the 2 steps. If you get tangent squared of x by itself, you would add this 1 and then you would divide by 3. So when you add 1 divided by 3, it equals 1/3. Then since it's squared, you take the square root of both sides. So you have tangent of x equals, and if you take the square root of both sides, don't forget put plus or minus right there. And then this would give you, square root of 1 is 1, you'd have 1 over root 3. When you rationalize that, that's root 3 over 3. Now this one's a little bit different. Since you have this plus or minus, you're going to have 4 answers. You're going to have 1 answer in each of the 4 quadrants because you're covering all the positive and negative values. So when we do this, you have to do a little bit more thinking. Tangent is y over x in the unit circle, so just put this here. So when you take y and divide it by x, it has to equal this root 3 over 3. So it can't, I'll cross this out, there's no way it could be pi over 4. There's no root 3's in it. It's actually turning out, it's going to be this one. It's going to be pi over 6, and to check it, if you took this y, which is 1/2, and you divided it by root 3 over 2, it's the same as multiplying it by its reciprocal, 2 over root 3. These cancel, and it's 1 over root 3, and when you rationalize it equals that. So the reference angle is pi over 6. So the good thing about radians, all my answers are going to have a denominator of 6. So in the second quadrant, it's 5 pi over 6. Third quadrant, it's 7 pi over 6. And the fourth quadrant, it's 11 pi over 6. So this is one where we ended up with 4 answers because we had plus or minus for the trig value at the end. Alright, very last one we'll do is number 5. Number 5 looks a little bit different than the first 4 because it's not set equal to 0. But we could still isolate sine. Really, I could just swap these 2 values to get sine by itself. So I could add sine of x. Alright, that'll cancel that out. And then I'm going to subtract root 2 from both sides. Subtract root 2. So I'm going to have negative root 2 here. And I forgot, let's add sine of x to this left side. So when we do that, this right here, sine of x plus sine of x is 2 sine of x. It's not sine squared because you're not multiplying them, you're adding them. And then to get that sine of x by itself, last thing, you divide by 2. And there it should look familiar, sine of x equals negative root 2 over 2. Okay, root 2 over 2, those are the easy ones. I know it's pi over 4. But y, sine is the y value in the unit circle. That is negative in the bottom 2 quadrants, 3 and 4. So I know these are going to be over 4. In the third quadrant, it's 5 pi over 4. And in the fourth quadrant, it is 7 pi over 4. Alright, so main thing with these three problems, get the trig function by itself and then just use your definitions for each trig function and go back to the unit circle.